This is the Logitech G513. It's a full-sized RGB Mechanical Gaming Keyboard, this one of course being the Carbon Edition. It supports their latest LightSync technology with supported game integration, but I unfortunately don't have their new G560 speakers to really bother going into it, and quite honestly, I just don't care beyond selecting a specific colour or lighting style that I want, which I'll go in later. But if you're curious, it will do things like flash red when the bomb's planted, or show your health across the numbers 1 to 9, etc. We're obviously looking at this though from the perspective of a competitive player, and the relieving part there is Logitech are definitely one of the good guys. Now the G513 has an aircraft grade aluminium alloy plate for rigidity, and comes in at a width of 455mm and a height of 132, which is further increased to 220 with the optional 88mm palm rest, and that is assuming you place it next to the keyboard. Now this memory foam rest has a leatherette covering and 6 rubber feet on the bottom to ensure it stays in place. It doesn't attach directly to the keyboard in that respect, so it can function as either a wrist or palm rest, even a faceplant cushion should you fail spectacularly in Fortnite, as it's remarkably comfortable. Now the 2 feet on the bottom ensure you'll have no problem with clearance, or at least for most sensible monitor stands out there anyway, meaning if you prefer to rotate the keyboard at an angle, either at home or for events due to space, you're covered there. You'll also be connecting the board through its 1.8 meter braided cable that does split into 2, the second of which provides access to a single USB 2.0 pass-through on the back. In that respect, it is a shame not to see USB 3.1 or Type-C, but hey, maybe the inevitable G810 refresh. Now there are 2 versions of the G513 available, one that features their new linear Roma G switch, like the keyboard we've got today, and the other tactile. Both variants have their keys raised up above the base plate though, which will make cleaning an absolute breeze. But in reference to those switches, both linear and tactile actuate at 1.5mm with a force of 45G, bottoming out at 3.2 with a durability of 70 million key presses. Now this is admittedly a very minor increase to the first generation's total key depth of 3, but certainly nothing to complain about, and I'd still rank it above pretty much every other switch type on the market when it comes to those numbers, and that is of course assuming you're looking for something deeper than chiclet for that typing experience. Now its low dead zone after actuation to bottoming out makes it not only an extremely responsive switch due to its actuation point, i.e. ability activation and initial movement, but also afterwards. The distance afterwards will impact your ability to do micro movements and affects null movement. So for example, if you push A to strafe left and D to strafe right down simultaneously, in the majority of FPS games you'll actually stand still until one of those keys is released. Now I'm not going to spend all video going into detail regarding this, for that you can check out an article linked in the description, but just know that Logitech clearly understand that reducing key depth is just as important as reducing actuation. Some switches such as cherry speed actually increase the dead zone, which is weird, right? But anyway, you can push down a maximum of 26 keys on the G513, which is more than enough for both humans and aliens alike, but the keys themselves are extremely sturdy thanks to 4 prongs that slot inside the Roma G switch, rather than your traditional cherry style stem that provides support from the center. There's little to no semblance of wobble or chatter when pushing them down on the smaller keys, and the larger ones such as shift, space and enter have cherry stabilizers rather than that cast style metal bar, which is appreciated especially when removing the keys. They're also much quieter when compared to competitor switch types, which my viewers have certainly appreciated over the last few days on Twitch, as I do use a condenser microphone, the AT4040. In the box, Logitech have additionally included 12 gaming keycaps that featured first on the G910 and keycap puller. Moving into Logitech's gaming software, we can see the G513 features complete macro support on F1 through F12, and because they do replace existing keys on the board, it means the keyboard doesn't waste any space by adding them to the left. The bezels surrounding the keyboard are also thin, and I wouldn't worry about space in that respect at events, but I'd still like to see Logitech experiment with a compact layout that isn't straight up TKL, as I do believe the number pad is important, but better this than that, for me at least. The only disappointing aspect to the board is a lack of volume scroll, which can be incredibly useful in clutch situations because hitting function and then scroll or pause lock is simply inefficient. You are able to swap the function and Windows key if wanted, which also provides access to lighting and complete set of media keys, and you could probably train yourself to press 2 buttons in a heated situation, but it's just not for me. In reference to those 2 keys though, there's no indication on the keyboard for when they're enabled either. Instead, Logitech do provide an optional Windows 10 overlay that appears in the upper right, and that's fine, it keeps the keyboard looking sleek. Now in terms of lighting options, you've got freestyle, which will allow you to set any colour for any key, zones, which allow you to segment the keyboard into areas such as W, A, S and D, number pad, arrow keys, etc. Effects with things such as fixed colour, breathing, star effect, colour cycle, colour wave, key press, and ripple. There are also custom effects that if you put time in can be incredibly powerful, with some pre-existing ones as examples including contrastic, bleep bloop, caterpillar, data fall, explosion, fire, lightning, ocean wave, rainbow ripple, red, white and blue, scanner, sign, skipping stone, sunstreak, synchro cycles, and vertical. Now you're able to change pretty much everything, including colours, direction, and speed or duration of all lighting modes, and I just set everything to pinky red, but hey, it's powerful if you're ready to get stuck in, and it'll all save to the keyboard's onboard memory, and with the software running, synchronized to other Logitech products including mice and headsets, as the LGS software is unified and just incredibly well thought out. But how was gaming on Logitech's G513? Well, for those familiar to the channel, you'll already know my generic thoughts on this already. Ultimately, your mouse and its ergonomics, weight and sensor, your monitor and its refresh rate, pixel response times and signal processing delay, your graphics card and PC FPS output, and your own capabilities and limits of human dexterity will always have the most impact on your ability to hit things in game. A keyboard in that respect should always be the least of your worries, but I mean that in the sense that it should at least still be good enough to avoid holding you back, i.e. it shouldn't actively work against you. In that respect, the G513 is definitely one of the few keyboards out there that has genuinely tried to make improvements for competitive players in its switch type. And like their mice and exclusive PMW3366 sensor, the linear G switches in mechanical terms have the least dead zone compared to its competitors, matching actuation points at 1.5mm whilst closing the gap after. They're incredibly responsive, and so much so that it leads me to question how they'd stack up against optical switches, for those of course with the equipment to test for it. If I was going to make any suggestions to improve the switches, it would be to provide a heavier alternative in future. I mean, 45G is light and certainly appreciated by many competitive players, don't get me wrong, but I can't help but question whether something closer to 50 or 55 would help increase the bounce back speed of the keys and help make micro movements in game even easier. I suppose the most depressing part of this review though is that the keyboard's going back being just a lone sample, but in a way I'm kinda happy about it. Hopefully in future they'll release an update to the G810, considering I absolutely adore having a volume scroll where possible, and if you already own a functioning gaming keyboard, it's certainly hard to recommend the G513 at retail, despite its amazing palmwrest and equally impressive gaming performance. I mean, I'm personally using a Zowie Celery S2 right now, which also doesn't have a volume scroll, and I'm not about to sidestep. However, if you don't own a gaming keyboard, or if you're in need of an upgrade today, I can't not suggest this either. It's definitely worth checking out. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more content, and as always, I stream every day on Twitch from 6 PM, so make sure to stop by and get involved in the live discussion, particularly if you want to have a conversation regarding any of the products we reviewed on the channel. But for now, take care, keep gaming, and I'll catch you in the next video.